So New Caledonian geckos tend to be pretty tough, but there is something, especially that when you keep a lot of geckos in tubs that your geckos can get, that can affect their life and even kill them overnight. This thing that I'm talking about is a little blister that they usually get underneath their body. Typically they get this when staying in tubs because there's not as much ventilation, and sometimes people spray their tubs too much thinking that they have to keep the humidity high at all times, and it creates a wet environment that will actually start to affect the gecko, and it will create blisters underneath their feet and their belly that eventually will kill your gecko, and it will just happen overnight. One day the gecko will look fine, the next day the gecko will just die. I've seen it happen with all kinds of New Caledonian geckos. Gargoyle geckos, leachianes, crested geckos. The reason why it happens a lot with leachianes is because of their wrinkly skin. When you're keeping leachianes or any other New Caledonian gecko for that matter, you do not want to keep them wet. Now these guys do come from a higher humidity environment, but that does not mean wet. That does not equal wet, especially if you try to keep them in a tub. Typically, I recommend new people to start off with enclosures that have a lot of ventilation, like the open front door enclosures, the Exoterras, the Zoomeds. Those enclosures are gonna provide more airflow. They're gonna allow the humidity to escape, and it's not gonna build up and get soggy in the bottom, in the substrate. These blisters can happen when the gecko is laying on the substrate for extended periods of time. Wet substrate or the dirty substrate is constantly on their skin. Now the reason they get them on the bottom is because that, you know, typically they're on the floor like this, and the problem is, like, a lot of people, you are handling your gecko and you never really notice to look on the bottom of the gecko. If you're keeping them in a tub, it is very important that you do not mist the same way that you mist in a glass enclosure. These guys will spill their food over their substrate. It gets moist, it gets nasty, a lot of bacteria build up that could really affect these guys. So I'm going to show you guys how to treat these blisters. I'm going to show you what they look like, and that way if you do notice it on your gecko, you could stop it. As you guys could see over here with this leechy here, underneath its feet, you see there's a couple blisters. Now these are kind of dried up and they're healing already, so it's not a big issue because I caught them early. But I have seen leechies with blisters all over their body, in the bottom, in the feet, and that will actually kill your animal. So you want to make sure that you're constantly checking up on your geckos. Make sure that they don't have any of these tiny little blisters. And if you do see them, you're going to have to clean it and treat it. I'm going to show you guys how to do that in a second. But real quick, first couple blisters that you will typically see in a gecko are going to be underneath their toe pads. And that is because of, you know, all the ridges that they have in between the lamellae. And of course, as you can see in this one right here, it's pretty bad. They could get pretty big. And geckos and other reptiles are pretty tolerant of pain, so they're not going to show any discomfort until it's too late. All right, so typically when we do this treatment, it's easier if you have another person with you. This is my brother. He's going to help us take care of this problem. And let's get this guy back to optimum health. Let's go. So he'll hold them for me. He's kind of going to hold them upside down. And what we want to do first is clean off the wounds and stuff. What we like to use is this iodine. Now, I have a little bit of water here. You want to dilute this. You don't want to give it straight on. And you want to make it almost look like a tea. So, not too dark. And this stuff is really potent. I'll kind of mix it up with my finger. And just a warning, this does kind of stain you. But this is the kind of color that we use. And this is great for, you know, it's great to clean off wounds, and it's safe for the animals, so it's not going to harm them. Typically, I use a paper towel or a cotton ball or something to pat them down, or I could even, if you have a mister or a little what's it called? What's that called?
A syringe.
A syringe or a spray bottle, you could spray the wounds. But I'm going to use, for now, I'm going to use a paper towel to kind of like double clean it. Okay, so you can see he has quite a bit on his feet. This guy also has a couple other wounds from his cage mate. As you guys know, leechies are not the gentlest of breeders, but so I'm going to clean underneath all of his feet. Just want to make sure it's nice and clean before I administer any medication to his feet. Just like that. Okay. You want to make sure you get in between those ridges. Also, you know, sometimes these geckos, especially the lychees, they have a lot of wrinkles. So depending on where that is. I've seen it on the neck also, so you guys gotta be careful. Make sure you inspect your animals. Okay, now that we have that clean, I'm gonna set this. Okay, well, fine, make a mess, no problem. I'm gonna set this on the side. What we typically put on the wounds is any sort of antibacterial cream. So we use this stuff right here. We got this from our vet, but the majority of people, and what I have used in the past, is this triple antibiotic ointment. You know, Neosporin works. This Walgreens brand works as well. We'll use this for now. So I'll just put some on my Q-tip right here. And then I'll start to put it underneath in the wounds. Now, right here. Now, you typically want to do this 2 times a day at least, even 3 if you can. Just because, of course, these wounds, these blisters tend to be on the underside of the gecko. You know, they rub it off pretty quickly. But, you know, we do what we can. So, I think I got one more. Oh, this guy almost got his finger bit off by his female. But he is okay now. Sometimes lychees don't get along, which is fine. Daniela's not the nicest sometimes. So we got that triple antibiotic on this guy's feet. I don't see any more blisters. We're good. We'll do that about 2 to 3 times a day for the next couple weeks. You'll see they heal up very, very quickly. So now let's set them up in a sterile enclosure and let's have this guy heal up on his own, preferably housing him by himself. Alright guys, so this is the setup that we're gonna use to keep this guy super clean, that he doesn't, his infections don't get any worse, his blisters don't get any worse. So it's, as you can see, we have paper towel substrate, we have these PVC tubes that are super easy to clean, and we have this hide here. And this will be his setup for about maybe a week or 2 until he heals. I'm not gonna do much spraying on this cage. I'm gonna kind of like let him be just like that. I do have a water dish in there for him, and I want to make sure that he doesn't spill that. If he does spill that, I'm gonna have to change the whole substrate, so to make sure that there's no like buildup of water in the bottom. But this is how we're gonna set him up. You get him treated, keep them like this for about 2 weeks, and you'll see that the blisters start to heal, and that will take care of the problem. So if you see these blisters in your geckos, make sure you get it taken care of right away, because over time it could definitely kill them, and it happens like that, you won't even notice. Guys, that wraps up another video. I hope you found this information useful. If you did, please do something for me. Subscribe. We're almost to 100,000 followers. When we hit 100,000 followers, we will be giving away some lily whites and some gargoyle geckos, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. See you guys on the next one.